We're live.
Okay, do give me a little message. Hi, welcome Internet to the weekly Backdrop Developer meeting. Today is Thursday, March 9th, and we get together each week to discuss the latest goings on here. My name is Luke McCormick. I'm a web project manager in San Ramon, California. Let me throw it to Greg.
Hi, my name is Greg. I'm joining from Melbourne, Australia. I work as a Drupal support engineer / developer and supporting GovCMS as well for the Australian government. And I do Backdrop when, like, just for fun. It's like, so I'm here to help with anything that community may need. Yeah, I'll pass it on to Jen.
Jen Lambton joining from Oakland, California. I am a Backdrop website developer and a Drupal release manager. So I guess what I do with Drupal these days. But yeah, very excited to be in Backdrop Day today. Let's see. So I just wanted to make a couple of announcements. We are looking to expand our redundancy in various areas. And that includes the ability to run these weekly meetings. We want to make sure everyone who participates in meetings and might want to run one should we not be around has access to the things they need to do that. And what you need is access to the Backdrop YouTube channel so that you can share from Zoom to your YouTube account, and access to the Google agendas, which we usually just put everyone on one and then copy it every week with all the same access. So if you are a normal attendee of the meetings and would be willing to fill in and run one of the meetings in the absence of both Tim and myself, which may happen from time to time, we'd love to get that distributed to more people so that if you wanted to do the live stream and the video, you could. Not a requirement, but let us know either in Zulip or in one of these weekly meetings. All right, general discussion. There were no items in the forum for today's on today's forum post, but I did add one item to the issue queue. This is an old one. It's issue number 2949, and this is something that I had my I think it was my Drupal 6 websites had this feature, and when I upgraded them to Backdrop, this feature was missing. I went back and checked, and I think it was also missing from Drupal 7. But essentially, it's the idea of allowing you to chain your tokens together, so you could say like parent, child, grandchild, or something in a token structure. And there was a contrib module as part of, I think it was called entity tokens in Drupal 7 that allowed this behavior. And so we pulled out just this taxonomy term join path indicator, I think. So this is the most common use case that I had for it anyway, was for path aliasing. If you wanted your taxonomy term to be, if it was something like country, state, city, term, you might want to have all of those individual things as a part of your URL path. And so being able to chain those terms together would be really useful. And so we added that particular token that allows you to take a taxonomy field and join the path of all of its parents. We have a similar option for menus where you can join path of a menu tree. Pull request is up at on the issue, needs code review and needs testing. So
yeah, the issue summary still had the old pull request, so I'm updating that now.
Okay,
so, cool.
Great.
So yours is there now. Cool.
So this is now ready for review and testing, but yeah, just announcing in this meeting so we can get some more eyes on it. And
most of the issues that I'm interested in talking are UX, so we've done that in the previous meeting, but there's this 5999 issue that we are sort of like looking for testing feedback, which is trying to add a new property to form API elements called indentation. And there's a link to a UX issue that was the trigger for this there, and it was about initially about checkboxes and radius, nested checkboxes and radius. But after Nate's reviews, it was suggested that we added to all form elements so that they can benefit. So yeah, that needs review and feedback and maybe things that we didn't think of.
I
And
had
that's
one
it.
idea.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is 59.99, by the way.
I had one idea when I was thinking about that, and I haven't read the issue and I'd like to go look at it, but is the value of pound indentation an integer?
I can't remember. I
Or is
think
it like
is.
true, false? Because if it was an integer, you could specify like how many levels deep
No,
you
it is.
wanted it.
It
Okay,
is. It's depth. It's basically the depth of the indentation. I think,
great.
and I think it might be related to the parent item. So,
Okay.
yes, not related, but what's the word for it? Dependent, I guess, or dependent, or takes into account, I should say. And also we made it work similar to how individual descriptions work for checkboxes. So, you have a set of checkboxes and you can add a single description or individual ones. So the indentation works like that. So you can indent specific ones
Great.
within the group.
Love it.
Yes, brilliant minds working on it. So
Any other issues you want to bring up?
there's one issue that it's 3624, which is basically adding a dedicated privacy and security section under configuration for the site. So this is sort of like a meta issue. So we have agreed that it's a good idea and we have some designs there, but in order to trigger it, we need to find at least one or more candidates for core that should go there. And there's a huge list of things. And I see some of them have already been merged, like, no, that's a dashboard, trusted host patterns, if we decide to expose that into the UI, and then permission policy header for Google Flock, which is and we removed because Google removed it anyway. But there's all sorts of issues that are very either easy to implement or very close that could go there. And if we make the stat, then that fits for other things. And yeah. The most recent one.
What's the issue number on that one again?
Sorry, it's 3624.
Okay. Quick question. Do we think privacy and security should go together?
Well, we don't have enough items to separate those two things. So there's another one for performance that are split out, which could be things about getting together things that improve the performance. Because we currently, like, if you know the internals of Drupal or Backdrop now, you know in which section to go in the configuration. But if you are going by purpose or goal, like, there's a lot of things that are scattered here and there. So I would like us to have dedicated purpose build sections that have all the settings, or at least point you to the right places. So yeah, a performance dedicated performance section could include things about SEO and the caching and aggregation, things like that, all in one place. So, and if we have beautiful like charts of things like checkboxes that, hey, you've ticked these checkboxes, so you're doing a good job with your site. Maybe it should be as a, it would not should be, but it would serve as a security or performance task, sort of like checklist for people to say, yep, done this, done that. Yeah. The specific one about privacy and security is a WordPress feature as well. So it would be sort of like providing something that competition provides in an easy way. So
yeah, I feel like the solutions around privacy concerns are usually in Drupal anyway, are really different than the security concerns in most cases, because privacy is usually around user accounts, and that isn't something that exists on WordPress in the same way, where I imagine most of the privacy is probably for like commenters and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that we can't have a section called privacy and security and put both sets of, if there's a contrib module and it has privacy settings, we put them in there. If it's a contrib module that has security settings, we put in there. And over time, if it seems like we need to split those out, we can.
But, yeah,
I
the most
hear you.
obvious, the most obvious thing that that comes to mind from core that can go into the privacy at least bit is the telemetry thing, which is obvious.
Mhm.
So I think that we are covering privacy concerns with that, but some people may still want to disable it because of that. So
Interesting.
and also setting statistics back to d.org with the update module, which we said we're going to split, right, to make it separate. So we said at some point, I'm not sure if we've done that.
You mean backdrop CMS.org?
Sorry,
not Drupal.
yes.
Okay, yeah. I was like, what are we sending to Drupal? I was thinking if there was something like left over in backdrop that I was like, oh,
No, we said that we would decouple the functionality of checking for updates from the functionality that actually sends usage statistics. It's anonymous. It's not. It doesn't lead back to the person that or the site that provided them. But still, people might have concerns because I don't know, government people or
most government people don't have concerns, but
this dovetails. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
With the general thought that you heard me talk about before of at some point sort of reimagining the user interface, because I was looking through our user interface for security and privacy things and like things that would go with it, and they're there, but I mean, just because of the way things have developed over history, stuff is scattered all over the place.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because and I don't really know exactly how to tackle this, but like all of these things that come up that are related to privacy are also related to something else. And so right now they're in the something else category. So like the ability to log in with an email, right? That stuff like that is in the user settings because it's like a user account feature, but it's also privacy. So I feel like there might be some of these things where we could build a form, like a core form that pulls them all together and it's like, here are things you consider for privacy, but I think we should still leave them in the other place too. If it's a setting, if it has its own page, if it's like a, contrib module or something has own, sure, put the whole thing in there. But if it is a checkbox on a user form or a checkbox in the telemetry form or something like that, I think there might be a way where we can do that, like put the thing everywhere you expect to find it, and have, still have only one set of saved values, but just like make all the user interfaces works. So my hesitation here is trying to figure out how to like what gets its own page versus what would just like be an option on the main page, and then how would you organize the options on the main page to indicate that they're all, or do you even have to, all part of other subsystems? I don't know, but I think it's important that we have this and we start trying to figure it out. So I'm glad
I love it. I mean, I feel like it groups with the user stuff, right? Because we're talking about people and how they relate to the system, and it could be that we'll have to sort of like take anonymous people, visitors that don't have accounts, but still kind of consider them as humans that that we care about and that we track and
there's other things like that fit into security from other sections that Jen said, like the password strength or allowing visitors to register accounts without approval. So things that might be of concern. And if you see this from an end user perspective that is not a person that has used Drupal or Backdrop, it would help them to, because they don't have this internal knowledge that was, this was added to core. So that's become my knowledge now. I know where it is. So we initially started as an idea of a report page that didn't have any settings, just so that it can have quick links. This is the form, and that's where the setting is, right? But yeah, I like over the course of things, like if we gather a lot of things, a single form that includes or embeds those items and saves them to the appropriate configuration files.
Yeah.
Yes,
that could be really valuable. But yeah, there is a lot of stuff that like this is kind of a rabbit hole. We need to start taking little steps and see at what point we fall into it, because it's like all of your permissions are important, but like we don't want to duplicate those. We just want to send people to the
Yes.
permission section, right? And then depending on like which modules you have, your configuration is going to be like what is the security concern for you is going to be really different than for other people. But yeah, like there's stuff like telemetry isn't really a privacy issue, but if people think of it like it is, then maybe we need to at least have some information in there letting them know what they need to know. But I don't know that we need the settings there if it's not actually a privacy concern. So yeah, just trying to figure out like where the lines are for stuff. I think we're going to have to like go through them each one at a time and see what would make sense as part of a report versus what makes sense as an actual option versus what would
Yeah.
make sense as a standalone page.
Well,
This-
I'm a big fan because it seems like a good place to start for sort of creating a user facing piece.
Yeah, I
you know.
also see it like training, right? Like for
Yeah.
people who aren't new to Backdrop, they'll be like, what are my security concerns? You'd be like, here's a list. This is the things you should evaluate when setting up your site. Or privacy too, right? Like people don't necessarily think about privacy until they get in trouble. If we had a way that was like, here are the things you should have, I think it's going to be great. Yeah. We just have to figure out how to build that.
And in government, which this is the experience that I have my day-to-day thing, is that you're going to have a different team of content editors for the site, a different team, which could be external or internal, of developers for the site and backend administrators. But then you would always have a security officer that you need to report to. And if we have a page where people say, when it comes to the site, this is the security report, this is what we have covered. So that will be helpful in that aspect. My point though, and sort of like as an actionable item and soliciting help, is that I've thought about this feature for long before I raised the issue, and the issue is raised in 2019. And it's easy to implement. It's just adding an item, right? We just need to pick a few of these items that belong in a security thing and say, yes, let's start by adding one or two, and then we can discuss the rest of them. It doesn't have to be a whole bulk thing where we decide what everything that needs to go in there. Let's start with a couple of items, and then we can build on top of that. And plus it would be a good feature to report for the next minor release, right? Sort of like, and it shows like if you have a dedicated security section, it shows that not that we're not taking security seriously anyway, but it shows that you have some dedication, right?
Yeah, I like it. I also saw the first issue in your list there was, oh no.
The the IP blocking, and there's also one for flood control, and one for there's a setting to include honeypot method in external. So these are all things that protect the site, right?
Yeah.
DDoS and things like that.
But I think
Or
that getting the menu item could be done with any of those issues, right? Where like it's like, here's my settings form, here's the menu item, and now that menu item is permanently in core, and any other contrib system could use it if they needed to.
One thing that has come early when I joined the support team for GovCMS was that government specifically has instructed to not show author information in nodes that were created. So maybe a global setting that disables that, so you don't expose user information. So unless your site is a blog where you need that feature, you need a centralized place where you say never show any information, especially for government sites that are national security centric and stuff like that. So
I'm going to go after the configuration menu at some point, because like there's nothing in any menu that's not configuration.
Content, there's content,
but yeah.
but everything else, yeah.
So it's like configuration is the other
Yeah.
menu. So like
I think in
Pretty much
Drupal 5, I
everything
think
there
it was
should have a
called
better one.
settings.
what?
In Drupal 5, I think it was called settings. And then at some point I got like configuration. And I'm like, is this an improvement? I don't know. It's just like the
But
place
now-
for all of this.
But now
other
that we
stuff
have
goes.
CMI and we call it configuration, maybe it makes more sense now.
Yeah, it really
Right.
does make more sense now. But
Well, I mean, it's just
People-
crazy. Like we have a user accounts menu, right? And then under the configuration menu, there's a submenu called user accounts.
well, that's the configuration. So user accounts are content, right?
Yeah.
So the user accounts, like the information, what's your email address, what's your name, that's content, but like whether they're allowed to log in or not is a configuration. Like can you create your own account? So yeah, this is one of those very gray areas where it's just like we tried to separate content from configuration, but like the content types have configuration, like the user account, like it's all tied together. And so trying to figure out where to put what is a bit of a struggle. Yeah. Be like other configuration. Not all configuration. And we still have that, like view settings are under the structure menu, but that's definitely configuration, right? But so is the view, really, but it's also structure. So like
Well, come on, structure like that.
right.
doesn't-
And it's like this is configuration that structures stuff, but it's still configuration. Yeah.
And don't get me started about the development menu, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of configuration that should probably be under the development. I think that we have an issue for that also. But yeah, the whole menu it needs a rethinking. It's just tough because we're also dealing with like people who already know how to navigate the system. We don't want to throw out everything they know and make them lost. So it has to be like close enough that they can like stumble their way through the changes, but it still needs an overhaul. So how do you do both those things?
I think there should be a legacy setting there where you can click it on and have like the familiar things, but like if you're not wedded to that,
Yeah,
there's
I don't know.
We're in QWERTY world, right? Like the design of the typewriter keyboard was those arrangement of those letters in the English language typewriter keyboard were designed to work around a difficulty in the first typewriter, of which they made like 100 of them. And later on in that first cycle, they fixed that problem. But by then there were already like 100 people
Too
that
late.
QWERTY keyboard. So now we have like, so something where only one of the vowels is on the home keys. Like it's just crazy. And we just so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to.
I was looking in the meantime for an issue for a respective issue for dedicated performance section, but I couldn't find any. Maybe I thought about it, but never filed it. But we do have an issue that goes
I
with
saw
it.
that issue for Drupal, so you might have filed it for Drupal like 10 years ago. So
Yes, it
I
could
like
be.
Brittany.
But there is issue 3991, which is a dedicated accessibility section under configuration, which is a good one. So, and it has a couple of like 4 tasks that I see there, like providing a dark mode at some point. But I'm not sure any of these issues are ready or close to ready yet. So it might take a while. Mentioning it as a sort of like a sibling issue to the one that we discussed before. I would like some feedback on 2 issues that are relevant to the search settings. So there's one meta issue, which is redesign the search settings form, and that's 5979. So I have a screenshot there. Sorry, I should have brought that during that previous meeting, the design meeting, but unless anyone else has any other core issues, that might fill into the rest of the time that we have.
What was it? 5979?
5979, yes.
Okay. Oh. Oh
So
boy.
yes. so here's the thing, right? There's a lot of, that's why I turned it to the meta. First of all,
Yeah.
there's a box up there at the top, which is, it's one of my pet peeves, right? We are duplicating a set of checkboxes and radio boxes just for the sake of setting a default, right? And we have a similar pattern for the languages and the contact form, where we actually have that be in a form of a table where you have an enabled section, column, and then a column where you select the default, and it will make it so much more compact, and it will be a reusable pattern. So that's one thing, right? The other thing is that this form is really lengthy, and I think that once someone has configured the rankings, they don't use them that often. So maybe this can go into a collapsed field set. The other thing, which is not in this design, is that I would like to move the indexing at the top of the page, because that's after you have configured your site, this is the most frequent action that you come to configure. You want to re-index things or rebuild the index or see what the status is. So plus I also, in the screenshots and actually in one of the pull requests, in the related pull requests, I implemented this bar, which people are used to see when they have the search API module in Drupal. So it gives them a better sense of, the progress of indexing on their site. So yeah, that's one of them. And the other one is, which is the dedicated thing, is issue 33385, which is convert the search item section to a table. And this is the one that I was referring to.
This is an old one.
Yes, it's been there for a while, but now I've discovered more patterns where we can use it. So this pattern is being used in the language UI, where you enable multiple languages. You set which ones are enabled, disabled, and which one is the default, right? And also in, I think, the contact settings. I can't remember now. So there's another 2 places at this where we can reuse this pattern.
Okay. So is this a theme function?
Yes, it's
that'll-
separate
okay.
theme functions. Yes. I started working on this one actually. I think I have something.
Okay, I just added those 2 notes to this issue for.
Yeah. So I find these to be very interesting, issues.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyone else want to bring up anything else?
No, but I want to comment on your table idea.
Yes, sure.
How would you feel about having the enabled and the default options to the left of the label?
So
Like-
yes, but you need to, there's 2 variations of it. You have things that are reorderable and things that are not. So languages, you have you're adding the table drag thing.
Same with search, I think.
Yes. No. Search items, I don't think, because
Contact form items are.
contact,
Maybe they
yes,
all are. Oh yeah, that makes it a little messier.
yes. Unless in the search items we want to make it draggable, and then that specifies the order in which the tabs in the search thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's not what I was thinking. Okay, hold on.
What were you thinking? The priority of?
Yeah, you're right. No, I was thinking for some reason about the search priority that was going to be in the collapsed field set, which is also a draggable table, not the search options that we are turning into a table.
Yes. Yeah. So specifically for search is which components are enabled, what you want the site to be indexing, and which one will be the default when you go to the search page. That's it.
Yep.
And mentioning, since we have another 4 or 5 minutes or more, 5 minutes, mentioning the contact, was it? Yes, contact form. Just bear with me. There's one thing that we need. All right, cool. The next issue that I would like to bring up is 5992. And I'm sure there's going to be some controversy there. Oh, this is the one. Yes, it shows actually the table there. And you can see that, oh, this is such a horrible UI. Like the default, whether we specify the default or not, is actually within its settings. So if you click the configure item, there's a drop-down menu that says, do you want this to be the default or not? And at the same time, you're changing the rest of the categories to no if you select one of them to be yes, which is very clunky, very odd. So that's the one there. Now, I have proposed this, and some people object, and I understand that trying so the disconnect there that I saw from a UX perspective is that the things that the admin is configuring are something else, but we cannot expose that terminology to user-facing UI. Because from a user perspective, they are selecting a category or a department that they want to contact or a specific person. But what the administrator is configuring is a set of recipients, like a group of recipients. That's what they're adding, basically, right? So yes, I had some thoughts there. I need some feedback on how to address this better in a better way. But when the main beef and why it started this thing was that we call them categories, but it doesn't apply to all sites. So there might be departments for another organization, another website, right? And one thing that would make things easier would be a thing in Drupal, they're doing that maybe for configuration in newer versions, is that they can specify plural forms of labels.
Yes.
So we could ask administrators to say, what do you want to call these? But you have list categories, which is plural, and add category, which is singular. So we need to tell them, all right, we call them department and departments, and then we adjust the UI so that it's easy and they don't have to think about it twice.
Yeah.
But maybe I just started an issue that is a non-issue because there's Kiam Laluno says, no, it's not confusing for me. So
yeah, so this is like categories is a very general term, right? But I don't know that we're configuring contact groups. Like I feel like the majority of the time it's not a group. And so what I feel like I'm configuring is the option that the end user sees on the form, which is a category to them. But if we change that name or allow that name to be changeable, I think that's also maybe just a good feature on its own, because it is very different on each type of website. The good thing about categories is that it works for everyone. But I do think that in some cases you are contacting departments. There's a nonprofit I work for where they've mixed like departments and individual people. And so then that's really hard because which label are you? I don't know what it is other than like categories works because that I don't have to think of another name for what I call them.
I don't have a screenshot. I don't have a screenshot in this page, but if you click on the add category, it basically asks you for a label and a list of emails. So that's what you're configuring, right? A list.
Well, I mean, but are you configuring the label? Or are you configuring the list? I mean, they're like, are the emails a setting on the label, or is the label a label for the email? Like it's a mental gymnastics, right? Like each person could do whatever they want.
Maybe it's confusing because I'm correlating the two, and maybe these should be as separate issues, as you said, because I think it's easier to decide on actually making the user-facing label of the field configurable. That would be the easy bit, right?
Yes.
Maybe I should split it up to a separate issue so that we can merge that, and then we can decide if we need to name things in the backend.
Yeah.
So yes, maybe I'll do that.
I'm also not entirely sure we need that in core, because categories works for 80% of use cases.
Fair enough, and you can say that this can be achieved in a theme level, right?
Yeah. Or just a contrib module of the form alter, right? Yeah, I think, I don't know. I mean, it's maybe worth opening an issue and seeing what other people think. Because everyone would be like, oh yeah, I'd use that, then sure. But like, I feel like, yeah, I'm fine leaving it at categories.
Fair enough.
Also.
Cool. Maybe I'll close this as works as designed there, or I'll allow for some feedback, and then I'll create a smaller scopy thing for the label.
Okay.
Because we do have a settings thing there, so I can go in the settings and say, what do you want to call this? And it's just going to be a similar as to how we have the what do you want to call anonymous people thing.
Yeah. Good work.
Well, cool.
Okay. Well, we're short of out of time. Any last
Maybe we
thoughts or
should
comments?
plug in the fact, team will appreciate that, plug in the Backdrop Live thing, which is coming up.
Yes, we have Backdrop Live. Event registration is open. Events.backdropcms.org. If you have registered for the event, please consider also offering to lead a discussion. You do not have to know anything about the topic. You just have to want people to talk about it. And if you show up in the room and say, people talk, there will probably be other people who will show up and talk. So yes, feel free to do so. And
We should
on the
mention
register,
that. Yeah, sorry. We should mention that this is an event that happens on spans across 36 hours, if I'm not mistaken, different slots, so that we can cover multiple time zones. And
Yep.
I think it starts on Friday the 24th, spanning on, depending on which time zone you are, the Saturday of 25th, right?
yes,
It has
yes,
that. And also that it's not a conference. You don't have to have any presentation officially ready or whatever. You just need to come up with a topic and then volunteer yourself or solicit help so that someone actually is there to facilitate the discussion. That's it.
yep.
It's free, it's remote.
Yes.
Donations are, can get accepted, but it's not a
That's
barrier.
correct. Yep.
Starts Friday, March 24th, 2023, which is 2 weeks and 1 day from right now.
Yep.
Cool.
Go to backdropcms.org.
Yes.
Um,
Right.
All right. Well, thanks,
we on?
guys.
All right. Thanks.